What's up guys, thank you for joining me. I'm your host Sam, and tell me if this sounds familiar. So you got your first camera, right? And you're shooting some photos, maybe getting some video clips, and you want to cut together your first full-length video for YouTube or maybe TikTok, and you're looking around at editing software and it's all really expensive, especially if you just bought your first camera and you're not even sure if you want to make videos. All the videos that I produce professionally or for YouTube are done on a free program called Davinci Resolve, and it's every bit as good as the paid programs that I've used in the past. Today, I'm going to show you how to use Davinci Resolve 17 to make your own videos start to finish. So you guys ready? Let's get to it. The first and most important thing to understand about editing before you ever get to the software stage is you can't put lipstick on a pig. And what I mean by that is you can't take bad video footage and make it good just through editing. You have to start out with great video footage and then make it better through editing. So you want to have a good baseline knowledge of how your camera works, how lighting works, exposure, all that stuff, and then build on that. Another really important part of making your own videos, especially to post them on the internet with how short everybody's attention span is nowadays, is cut out anything that doesn't absolutely need to be there. So keep things short, sweet, and to the point. My third and final tip before we get to the editing is use your resources while you're editing. So if you're running into an issue or some sort of problem and you can't get around it, type the issue into YouTube. There's a 99% chance that somebody else had the exact same issue and they made a tutorial on how to fix it. So don't be afraid to use YouTube because it's a tremendous well of knowledge. So now that we have our video files on our SD card and we're ready to put the SD card into the computer, you may notice that your PC or your laptop doesn't have a slot for the SD card. If this is the case, you're gonna have to buy an adapter on Amazon, but luckily they're really cheap. Once you put the SD card into your computer, it should pull up the File Explorer automatically. Camera companies like to hide video files a few folders deep, but just look around for them and you'll find them. These are the 3 test files that we're going to be using for this tutorial, and I'm just going to highlight these and copy them to somewhere more permanent like my disk drive. The reason we copy these video files to somewhere like an internal drive in the computer is because keeping them on the SD card means that they may be formatted when we go back out to shoot and we don't want to lose the video files. Now that we're done copying the files, we can remove the SD card from the computer. And we're just gonna open up Davinci Resolve by double clicking on the icon. The first thing you'll see when Davinci opens is this project manager. You may not have any files here if you've never used it, and all we're gonna do is open a new project. I'm gonna call this tutorial for YouTube. Now, the first screen it opens up normally is either the Cut tab or the Media tab, but we're gonna go straight to the Editing tab. If you don't have this Media Pool area over here, you can open it by clicking this icon up here. Now we're gonna right-click in the Media Pool and hit Import Media. If you don't see the same drive that we left off on, just search around on it over here and find the video footage that you're looking to open. I'm gonna highlight these 3 video files and hit Open. It's gonna ask me if I wanna change my project frame rate, and I'm just gonna hit Don't Change. So now that we have our video files in the media pool, before we start building our timeline, there is some housekeeping that I'd like to do. So I'm gonna hit Control-Alt-Delete on my keyboard and go to my Task Manager. If you have any programs from Adobe, there's a bunch of background processes that run every single time you start your computer, and these are really CPU intensive, so I like to end task on all of these so that they're not making Davinci slower. This is one of the many reasons I hate Adobe. But their photo software is good, so I'm kind of stuck with them. Now that we got that out of the way, there is some housekeeping I want to do internally in Davinci. We're going to go up to File and down to Project Settings. If you don't know what the Color Management tab is, ignore this portion of the video. For everybody else, if you're using picture profiles and you're using something like a log profile, you do want to put this on Davinci YRGB Color Managed and check the Automatic Color Management box so that Davinci knows what codec and what video file you're using so it can convert it to Rec 709 at the end. One of the things I like to do before I start editing is I'll change all of these to DNXHRHQ instead of HQX. I find that it's a little easier on my computer, and I'm also gonna check both these boxes, and that's it. So now we're ready to start building our first timeline. And if you don't have these effects down here or you don't have the inspector up here, you can navigate everything with the icons in the top right or the top left. If you don't have the effects, it's this icon. If you don't have the inspector, it's this icon. Also, if you've double clicked on one of the video files and there's actually 2 screens up, that's just a different way of looking at it. I prefer the 1 screen method, but you could also use the 2 screen method. So we're gonna double click on our first video file, and you'll notice immediately that you can scrub through the entire video and see exactly what you want. And what I can do is just click on this image and drag it down here, and it'll create a timeline and pull the entire video and all the audio down to the timeline. But what if you don't want the entire clip there? Well, you can make this smaller and start dragging this back or dragging this forward, and that'll make the clip shorter. But if you want to do that in the first place, I'm just going to choose the portion of this clip that I want. I'm going to hit I for in. You'll notice this gray pops up, and then scrub through to where I want it to end and hit O for out. And then what if you don't want the video and the audio? So you have this little video reel thing here and this little audio waveform there. You could drag just the audio down, or you can drag just the video down. Everything above this line is going to be video. Everything below it is going to be audio. That's what the V1 and the A1 is for. You can also lock these or solo them, mute them. So now that I've grabbed this little portion of the clip out and put it down in my timeline, we can watch through it by hitting spacebar. And this line here is how you scrub through your timeline. If you want to delete this video clip, you can hit Control X. You can hit Control Z if you make a mistake and you want to undo whatever you just did. And you can also copy this video clip by highlighting it. You'll notice the red is around it. You can hit Control C and then Control V, and it'll copy the same exact video file if you wanted a duplicate. So for right now, I'm gonna highlight both of these and hit Control X to delete them. We're gonna go to our next video file, and let's say I just wanted from there, I for in, to there, O for out. I'm gonna drag just the video file down. Now, instead of video or audio, I'm gonna pull down straight from the image and get both the video and audio. You'll notice these are really small. What you can do is zoom in with this little bar over here. And let's say hypothetically that I don't want the video to match the audio that we just pulled down there. If you unhighlight this little chain here, you can drag these independent of one another. Also, if you want to link two clips that didn't come from the same file, you can highlight all of them at once and then hit link clips, and now they'll all drag in tandem with one another. Another thing you may have noticed are these little bubbles on either side of the clip. This is just so that you can fade in and fade out your video clips. So let's say hypothetically you wanted to take this video file and transition it to the next one a little more smoothly than just a hard cut like that. You can come down to your video transitions in the effects tab, and Davinci has a bunch of built-in options for transitions. So I like the cross dissolve one. You'll drag it between the two clips and you'll see this little box pop up, and this is why we have our inspector open. Whenever you highlight anything, it'll show you a bunch of options to do with the clip. If you wanted this transition to be longer, you can just drag it around, and that'll crossfade between the two clips. There's also a bunch of options up in the inspector to change how the transition is behaving. So what if you don't want these video files to play at full speed? Maybe it's a slow-mo clip that you shot in 60p. Well, you're gonna highlight the video clip, come down to speed change, and for 60p, you're gonna wanna go down to 40% in speed percentage. Or if you shot 120, you can either do 40% or 20%. Anything lower than that and you're gonna get dropped frames and it's gonna look kind of weird, like choppy. But as you can see, 40% works and so does 20. We're also gonna make this backpack clip slow motion. If you don't see all those options over here, you're just stuck in one of these folders, just click the video option and you'll get all those options back. So we're gonna drag this over to 20%, and we're also gonna add a dynamic zoom. And what this does is it just zooms in automatically on the clip for you at a set interval depending on how long the clip is. Let's say this first clip is a little too bumpy and you need to stabilize it. Davinci has a built-in stabilization engine in the inspector. What I like to use most of the time is the translation mode. I don't mess with any of the other options, and you hit stabilize. And what it does is it zooms in slightly and it uses an algorithm to automatically stabilize the clip, and it's super useful. You'll see that that's much more stable than the last version. So now that we have our timeline built and we have all our test clips down in here, what if we want to add music? Well, we're gonna go back up to our media pool. We're gonna create a new bin, which is basically just a folder in the media pool because it's good to stay organized in your media pool. And we're just gonna name it music. Double click on that, hit import media, go to wherever your music is in your hard drive and pick a song. You can double click on this audio file and cut it just as you did with the video files. So we're gonna start at the very beginning of this audio, hit I, and then go somewhere over here. And now we have our audio clip to drag down to the timeline. Now I wanna show you guys how to add some words to your video. So we're gonna go down to the effects and click on titles. And we're just gonna drag this text plus box up to here. Now you'll see that custom title pops up. We wanna highlight this text plus box, go up here, and we'll call it Sam Tutorial. You can change the size, you can change the tracking, you can change all sorts of weird stuff. If you want to reset any of these settings to default, just click the little dot underneath the slider. So now you'll see this text plus box stays on the screen until it's cut. But what if we want it to look a little better than that? We're going to use the fade in and fade out options. That looked a little nicer. And as I said, guys, this is a super basic tutorial. There's a million different ways that you could do that exact same thing in Davinci Resolve. And the fun part is learning how to do things in different ways. And definitely don't be afraid to experiment. That's how you'll learn more and more ways to make your videos better. The last thing I want to go over is the inspector. Now, if you highlight one of your video files, you'll notice that this inspector up here has like a million different options, and they're all super powerful. If you pull your timeline slider over whatever video file is highlighted, you can actually see in real time what you're doing to the video files. There's a zoom option, position, you can move your clips around, you can rotate them. There's all sorts of stuff you can do up in this inspector, so don't underestimate it. You can also do your cropping, the dynamic zoom we already went over. Composite is for opacity. If you wanted to have, like, say, one clip over the other and do a double exposure, we turn the opacity down. So something like this. All of these can be turned off with the switch in the top left of the option. Speed change we already went over, the stabilization we already went over. Lens correction won't work unless you have the pro version of Davinci Resolve, but it doesn't really matter. And retime and scaling I've never used, so I'm not gonna pretend to know what they do. So here we are in the coloring tab. You can find it down here, and yes, it looks super overwhelming. There's like a million different sliders and all sorts of crazy stuff that you can do down here. I actually did a tutorial just about the color grading tab, which you can find right here somewhere. I don't know, it'll pop up somewhere. And the reason I did a tutorial based on just the coloring tab is because it's a huge well of knowledge that you need to have to utilize it to its full potential. I don't even know everything that this thing does, but I do know the basics, and I can go from something like this, which is the original video file, to something more like this, which is a lot more deliverable in my opinion. This whole coloring tab is about changing the look of your image, and it's something that's very valuable to know how to do, especially if you're serious about making your own videos. So now that we're done in the coloring tab, let's move on to the delivery tab. You'll notice that Davinci has a bunch of different delivery templates already built into the top here, and most of the time if I'm uploading to YouTube, I just use the YouTube template because it's the easiest for my workflow, but you can make your own custom delivery method where you can change pretty much anything you could think of about your video file. I don't recommend this for beginners though. If you're planning on uploading to YouTube or TikTok, just use the YouTube template because it's way easier. Another thing you'll notice is this timeline down here. You can choose to render out only certain portions of your timeline if you. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this back to just where the video clips are because I don't want all that music. We're gonna go up to the YouTube template, call this tutorial, and you can change the location of where the file is being rendered out to. I'll just choose that disk drive. You can change your frame rate if you want to for some reason. You can change all these options here, and we're gonna hit add to render queue. It's gonna ask me, oh, I'm glad that this popped up. Okay, so it's asking me if I wanna render in 4K even though my timeline isn't technically in 4K. If you run into this, you wanna hit cancel, go back to your editing tab, go up to project settings like we went in the beginning, go up to your timeline format in master settings and change this to 4K. Now we're gonna go back to our delivery, go back to YouTube, click on the 2160p, name this tutorial again, choose our location, hit add to render queue, and now nothing pops up because it's in the proper resolution. Now we're gonna hit render all. Well, I'm not actually gonna hit render all because we're done, but you're gonna hit render all, your computer's gonna make a bunch of noise, and then you'll have a finished video file at the end. But anyway guys, that's been my tutorial on Davinci Resolve 17 to make your first video. I hope you guys got something out of this. If you did, consider going down and hitting the like button. It means the world to small content creators like me. Thank you for joining me on another tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.